Rudy's, which closed in Portsmouth, which had a number of tables, pans, that sort of thing. And I know Eric went to the viewing today.
I want to call the meeting to order.
Is it 6?
Welcome, everybody. It's cold out there. Has been for quite some time. I'll open with public comment. If anybody has anything they'd like to say, please raise your hand. I'll recognize you. You come to the podium. Look at the select board, and you have 3 minutes to say what you'd like to say. Anybody? Okay, so we'll move on. Ann Tappan, Conservation Commission representative.
Hello. Hello. In your agenda packet, you received some information about a workshop to prune old apple trees. And I'm not going to reread that, but I have some additional information I'd like to present to you. 3 Conservation Commission members, Catherine Fisher, Deb Sugarman, and I met with a couple of folks recently, someone from the Forest Society and a local farmer. They were seeking a site for conducting a workshop to teach how and why to prune old apple trees. The old orchard area behind the public safety complex has around a dozen old apple trees in the early successional opening and just into the surrounding forest. This area is in the town forest, but is not part of the conservation easement. The event was discussed at the January 25 Conservation Commission meeting. All members voted in favor of holding the workshop. In addition to pruning demonstrations, talks about old apple trees in the landscape and their value to people and wildlife, participants will have opportunities to use hand tools, pruning saws and loppers to practice pruning techniques. The town administrator contacted Primex to ask about the use of hand tools, the loppers and pruning saws, and an orchard ladder at the workshop. They are okay with the event. If you have questions about that, Andy can address that. Though this is not a volunteer work day, participants will be asked to sign the Town of Lee volunteer log. The workshop is scheduled for Saturday, March 12th. In addition to the workshop leader, the local farmer Brian Cassidy, 3 Conservation Commission members will be on hand to assist. Pre-registration is required with 12 participants maximum. Upon registration, participants will receive details about the event, including parking information. The police department will be notified that there will be parking at the PSC for this workshop. Do you have any questions?
Sounds great. That's a
Questions?
great idea.
Comments? In that case, I move to allow the Conservation Commission to conduct an apple tree pruning workshop to include hands-on opportunities for participants in the old orchard area of the town forest on Saturday, March 12th, 2022. Can I have a second?
Second?
Roll call vote. Selectman Bugby?
Yes.
Selectperson Casper?
Yes.
Selectman Brown? Yes.
Thank you very much.
Go forth and prune.
Yes, I'm very much looking forward to it.
That's great. Thanks for organizing.
Mr. Witham at Primex did say that he was not overly excited about orchard ladders, but that they were certainly well within the breadth of our liability coverage and could
With
proceed
12
without concern.
12 people there to support each other, you can learn how to use it safely, so then at home you can be safe. It makes total sense.
There is only one ladder available, so
You can only get so
it'll be
much
well
trouble.
monitored.
Is it a special ladder?
An orchard ladder.
It is, it's an orchard ladder. It's wide at the bottom and it narrows at the top
Yeah.
so that it sits snugly in a tree crotch.
Yeah.
It doesn't have large, long rungs all the way up where it can go side to side. It is specifically for using in orchards.
Okay, all right. Next up, Carrie Brown, resident survey.
Great.
If you remember, I'll go back to the deliberative session, when the session was just about at its tail end. The gentleman stood up And he'd been active all day. The gentleman stood up, and in one of his comments, he said, specifically, I don't know whether it was for the select board or me, but he said, and I don't trust you. I took a little offense to it. I stood up, went to the podium, and reiterated the question to him. I said, you don't trust us? He said, no, I don't trust you. And then I was closed down by Don Quigley, rightfully so. When the meeting ended, I got up and went to the back of the room, and I was approached by more than one person who said, you know, we've heard other people say that they don't trust the select board. I said, really? Said yes. And that happened a couple of times back there while I was mingling, if you would. So that bothered me really quite a bit. I honestly can say I lost sleep over that. I've never been called untrustworthy before, and I was concerned about it. So as I started thinking about it, I realized that the select board really does not have any input or anything, any metrics or anything to measure performance by. We really don't know on a day-to-day basis with the decisions that we make, what the people think about it. We get nothing back from the population as to our performance. So what I'd like to request from the select board is that we put together a questionnaire that has 5 or 6 pertinent questions in it relative to, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Do you believe that the select board, performs in your best interest or represents your best interest, or et cetera, et cetera? 5 or 6 questions, that's all. Very easy questionnaire. And we send it out to the residents, and we collect the data, hopefully, and see what we get. I think it's important that we get some feedback from the town as to what they think about us in terms of our performance. So that's what I'm asking for, is that we can put together a survey and send it out or post it, however you think we should do it. Personally, I think sending it out is the best way, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, I'd like to add that I agree. I think it's very important that we get feedback from the people. I think there's a lot of ways that we can increase communication that would be helpful as well. That, I'm not sure that we have a consistent way of responding to messages. I'd like to talk about that at some point. I think there's a lot of ways that people are reaching out that we're not always paying attention to. I think we also had plans to do a survey about other things like buildings in the town. We wanted to talk about people's, what they're concerned about, that kind of thing. So I think if it was part of a larger town-wide survey, I would be in favor, because I think that's something that is worth the effort. I just wouldn't want to only do it just about the select board, because that is
I understand what you're saying, but I think, maybe it's 2 separate pieces of paper, I don't know, but I really think that, I agree with your fact that, with the question that, with putting together a questionnaire about the town buildings or this or that, but I'd really like to focus on getting something back that's targeted towards the select board. That's how they're, that's what the response is targeted at, is depending on how you form the question, of course. But, I'm not against saying, hey, do you want to have something in there about the buildings too, depending on how you form it, that's fine. But I would like to get some feedback relative to how they feel about the select board, how it performs, et cetera, et cetera. You need to think about what the questions would be formulated at, but Mr. Busby?
Oh, you all set? Couple of things.
Mhm.
One, after the meeting, I had a long conversation with the gentleman that you're talking about. The issues he has is he thinks about things a little bit differently than we appear to. So there's a difference of opinion. There is a little bit of personality difference there. And he said that to me as well, you know, we don't trust the select board. I says, well, wait a minute, I'm on the select board. He says, yeah, I don't trust the board. So it's not necessarily the people. He doesn't agree with some of the stuff that we've been doing. Second thing, I'll give you a piece of advice that Joe Ford gave years and years and years ago. He said, to do this job, you have to have thick skin. You're gonna have some people that like you, some people that don't give a darn what you do, and some people that are gonna hate you. So just be aware of that. So no matter what you do in terms of surveys, you're always gonna have those people that don't like you no matter what you do. You're gonna have those people that love you no matter what you do, and then there's people in the middle. So just be aware of that. Survey's not gonna change his mind, it's not gonna change anything. I think it's good to do a survey in terms of how things are doing, but I can agree with Katrin, excuse me, sorry. It needs to encompass other things, just besides the select board, because it looks like it's very self-serving if it's just a select board being done there, so.
I think the thing is that, what I'm trying to say is, as a person who also was frustrated with the select board, so frustrated I ran, I think that one of the things that was frustrating is that there's ways that the people of the community reach out regularly that weren't being listened to. So a survey is a one moment in time. What I'm wondering about is when people write in, how are we responding to that? When people are commenting on things going on in the town, what are we doing about it? Are we paying attention to what the community is saying? And my concern is a survey is one moment, but the way we build trust and that we get people to believe in the select board is by really listening and participating and realizing that we are only here to serve the people of this town. And the more we think about that and the more we talk about that, the more that we realize our jobs are really to represent the residents, I think that's a long-term commitment and something important. So again, I think we need to do a survey. I agree with that and have good questions on there, but I don't want to spend the taxpayers' money on something that is just a snapshot.
Okay. All right.
So survey, I think that's something we should definitely dig into and get those big pictures and understand what people are thinking and get individual ideas out. I think that's a wonderful idea.
Okay. Let me see what we got here for, somebody want to structure a motion?
I don't think we even have to motion today.
For what?
It's just a discussion.
It's just a discussion.
We have consensus on doing a survey, is that right?
Yeah, we've talked about it before, yeah.
Okay, so we have a consensus on going ahead with a survey. We'll have to structure a survey to, if you would, answer the need.
Right. The challenge is getting unbiased questions, and so I started
No, exactly.
this last year, and it's very challenging because you have to figure out what is the reason for the survey, how do you ask those questions, and what are we trying to do? So it would have to be something we'd really put some effort and hours into. I think if we're gonna do that.
I agree.
And we'll have to think about cost.
Yes, it's a very expensive possibility.
Okay.
So maybe something that you two could do, because I think we've done, well, you're gonna do a mailing of just a little bit anyways to everybody. So maybe when we talk about this, you can bring that information back to us in terms of
What that costs.
what the printing cost would be, because it's probably gonna be, because this is what, 9 pages or 7 pages? It's two-sided, 1, 2, 3,
We sent it to all 1,900.
5,
6-page document, two-sided.
So that will give us a good idea into what the printing cost would be and also what the postage cost would be. So that will kind of capture the expense for us. Just a thought.
Yep, I know we have that, we can easily get that back to you.
And then to figure out who we work with to get an unbiased, as unbiased survey as possible.
Okay. Next up, Andy Robertson, Town Administrator.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First item I had was select board coverage for the March 8th elections. I know you're all well aware of the need to have coverage. 2 or 3 years ago, there was a change in New Hampshire law, so if you can't keep quorum of the select board there for the entire election, you can appoint someone to be there in your capacity. Something to keep in mind in the event that inspectors from the Secretary of State's office show up and want to know where your quorum of selectmen is. It's always good to either have a quorum of selectmen or have some appointed representatives.
2 people at all times.
Yeah, and we have an election planning meeting scheduled for the 17th. I believe it's at 3 o'clock at the town offices with moderator Quigley, and you are certainly all welcome to show up. I know Katrin's going to be there. But that was the first consideration. The second thing is the voter's guide. I believe you've got copies of the voter's guide. Oh, sorry, Scott?
Let's deal with that particular issue first.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one, in terms of the schedule, one of the 3 of us going to be there, and 2, are we designating somebody to be there? So can we get that out of the way so we?
It is up to you as a board if you want designees.
So I plan on being there for as much of the day as possible. I will need like a lunch break, but I can definitely, that's one person, so then the other 2 of you could.
So
Maybe.
somebody
figure that
needs to cover with her.
out. Right, so,
I will have to have the late shift,
right, so what time can you start and then,
like 4-ish.
so 4 until we're done?
Yep.
So that means we have from 7 until 4 to
Well-
find you or a designee.
It's a good conversation, because I was concerned, since I'm on the ballot, I was concerned whether I should be
You can,
in the area or
you
not.
can't, just don't touch the ballots.
Well, I know,
You can't, no, well, even to help somebody out,
Hmm.
because I'm on the ballot too, and that's the stipulation. So you can be there to monitor, but
Right.
you can't touch the ballots, no matter what, because you're on.
By statute, you're required to be there actually as a
Yeah.
selectman, whether you're on the ballot or not.
So just
Well,
don't touch the
normally,
ballots.
between the 3 members of the board, we split the times up into,
Mhm.
7 in the morning till whenever to.
That's when you'll need it.
That's how we've traditionally done it, so.
They changed the rules though, so now you have to have a quorum. So that would mean, so it used to be you could have 1 person as long as 1 person was there, but now it's a
Yeah.
quorum, so it means 2.
You're actually never supposed to have just
Yeah.
one
Oh,
person.
all right, so we just
I was gonna
broke
say,
the
wait a
rules
minute,
for a long
That's
time.
not right, okay.
All right, so there's, so
Just be
2.
careful what you're saying.
Right.
The rule change was to
Just be
appoint a
careful what you
designee in your stead.
Right.
I don't know.
I'm not saying just you, but just,
Oh, got it.
you're talking about things where you're breaking RSAs, so don't be doing that
RSAs.
in a public place.
I have no idea what we're talking about, but I apologize. I'm happy to be there for the day, and, yeah, so I guess if you could be there in the morning time, and then during the periods that you can't, we'll get a designee.
Well, my normal time is 7 in the morning till noon,
Perfect.
okay? That's
Then
my
noon to 4,
normal
we just
time.
have to find
So we
somebody,
need a designee from you.
and possibly 2 for a lunch break.
So I designate Andy Robinson to be in my stead from noon until 4 p.m.
I don't think that's how that
Actually, I
works.
don't think I can as a non-resident and non-registered voter.
Really?
No,
Shucks.
Okay,
so,
are we good?
Well,
No?
I have to find somebody.
Well, you have a little time, and you can certainly appoint them as designee at the meeting. It's a posted meeting, so you can, up until the last minute, grab somebody actually from the crowd and make them a designee.
great.
From the crowd.
Soup's fun.
I'm assuming there'll be a crowd.
All right.
Okay, so I have to choose a designee.
No, I think, well, one of us has to,
Somebody
One of us
should
has
from
to
noon
choose
to
a
4.
designee.
to cover,
Right.
be there with Katrin there.
All right, I'm a little confused, but okay.
Because you're going to be there at night too, Katrin, right?
I'm gonna be there as much of the day as possible. Again, I just have to, like, I don't know if I'll need to have lunch, and I will also
So you're
need to,
still there for lunch though.
I have to figure out the car too.
And there'll need to be a quorum of you to sign the tapes on
Yeah, I'll definitely be there.
the sealed ballots after the election.
Yeah, that's at the end.
I might not be like in a great mood after that day, but
That's okay. That's okay.
So do I need to choose a designee, or
we need to find someone from that 12 to 4 period.
we're gonna find one somewhere, is that what you're saying?
How about this, if somebody would like to volunteer for the 12 to 4 period as a designated select person, we can entertain that, and then maybe we can look into.
I'll find something.
John, you wanna be my designee?
He doesn't want to be there for 4 hours. I'm thinking one of the people that's a ballot clerk. Okay, good. Okay, so I will check that out.
Who's there already?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
let
I'll
me know
find
what I
something.
Do
need.
they dual role like that? Is that cool?
Yeah.
You want that job done?
All right, Andy, you're still up.
Okay, moving on at this point, the voter's guide. You have copies of the voter's guide. There has been one change to the voter's guide on page 3. The operating budget now reflects an operating budget of fiscal year 2022 for the current year, and a proposed operating budget for fiscal year '23. And that was a little different than the first copy that some of you got. I know Carrie has a corrected one. I believe you two have one with a mistake.
Great.
I have two things that I propose that we take a look
Okay.
at. Article number 3.
Yep.
The last sentence of the script, well, of the, whatever you call this, the analysis that we put after the warrant itself, says increased cost in the sand/salt line of the highway budget. It's all the stuff, all those particular things, not just sand and salt, all those particular things that he has in there. So I think we should say just increased cost in the highway department.
Okay, so strike sand and salt.
Yeah, because it's more than sand and salt.
And not include the other things?
Yeah, just say increased cost in the highway department budget. The next one I have is under article number 4. And this is part of the thing that's in parentheses. I think we should tell them, because we know how much is encumbered, it's $650,000.
Okay,
Because I think, at least from my point of view, there's $798,000 in there, and they're thinking, oh, significant, well, how much is that? And it's $650,000, so that's like almost all of it, it's majority of it. So
okay.
if we can say something like a total of $650,000 is encumbered for the new fire truck or something like
Right.
that, because we know that number.
Okay, so include the encumbered amount.
Yeah. Because I think that will make a difference. Then they'll say, whoa, there's only $149,000 left.
For the highway department as well, since that's part of the highway department cost?
The what? In terms of,
Did we include that?
No, I put a significant amount instead of the actual.
oh, in terms of,
Yeah.
you want that one.
The highway, because that amount of money is because of the truck.
Yep.
It should
Nope,
be-
I will change a significant amount of this total to the actual number.
This-
And I was just saying,
Remember, that's the one you're talking about, is the truck,
oh, okay.
was plow, are you talking about the roll-off truck? Is that what
Yeah.
you're- Oh, there's nothing in there about the roll-off truck.
All right, should we include that information with the roll-off? If we're including that about the
Okay.
truck?
You could,
To include the cost of the roll-off truck into the expenses, is that what you, is that this year, right? Is that last year?
For warrant article 4.
For what?
8.
Oh,
She's talking about 8.
Oh, okay,
She wants to include the amount that was expended for the roll-off truck this fiscal year.
okay.
Well, just if we're including
Yep, that's fine.
those things.
Well, we can leave it.
Right, so why not?
Yeah.
John?
John Tappan, 187 Stepping Stones Road. So the roll-off truck got divided between two funds. So Article 6, which is the transfer station equipment, $168,000 of the cost of the roll-off truck was to come from that transfer station equipment,
Great.
capital reserve fund.
Yeah.
So it should mention that. And then on Article 8, there was $17,989 toward the roll-off truck, which was to come from highway equipment.
Thank you.
And in addition, it says that in fiscal year 2021, a new F-350 Super Duty pickup truck was purchased. That hasn't been paid for, the town has not been reimbursed for that yet.
Okay.
The number that I have is $43,604. I believe that was there was a pickup truck and a plow and a sander.
Okay.
And I think the 43,604 includes all three. But that did not come to even though it was purchased last year, it did not come to the trustees of trust funds. So it hasn't been reimbursed. So I get a total of $61,593.
So, do that again, John? So the pickup truck was never,
Paid for?
Correct. No, it was paid for. It was paid
It has
for.
not been reimbursed.
We legally own it, yes.
Yeah.
And Steve got invoices in time for the truck. But the trustees of trust funds did not receive a request for reimbursement for that pickup truck.
So
So,
that still needs to be done.
so that still needs to be done.
So that's still sitting as part of.
And in addition, there was planned to be purchased a plow and a sander.
Mhm.
And I might be wrong, but I think the 43604 included all three items.
Perfect.
But that would have to be confirmed with
Verify.
So
verifying.
I guess a couple of things. Can we add what John said at the beginning about Article 6 and Article 8 in terms of the roll-off truck?
Got that?
And two, for number 8, can you check, and if it hasn't been, sounds like it hasn't been, requested reimbursement from the capital reserve fund, that be done? I suspect the auditors caught it as something that's still sitting out there, right?
This is, remember that last year, we got the final signed request from the select board like 2 or 3 days before the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah, that's not good.
So,
I can certainly make arrangements to have that done, and I'm going to have to spend some time talking with Mr. Bullock tomorrow about
Yep.
Which comes from
Well,
where?
I believe all the invoices have all been turned in
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
and paid.
And I guess I would request, if the board's in agreement with me, that the request for reimbursements to the trustees of the trust funds occur no later than May 1st each fiscal year, to
Okay.
give the trustees of the trust funds opportunity to do those deposits,
That's,
May 1st.
that's pretty early.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't want to make it June 1st, because then it's going to ooze into, how about May?
Getting the signed copies 2 or 3 days before the end of the fiscal year, which is what we did last year, that's way too late. We have had other years when we received the request for reimbursement, we met, and then additional expenses were incurred in June, and then we had to get an additional request and an additional meeting. So if you plan it too early,
I don't want to plan it too late, though.
So what's a good date?
first available time in June, so.
Okay.
Like the first meeting that we have in June? Because we have to sign.
Well, getting it in, when it's worked well, it's either been, if your first meeting in June is not till like the middle of June, then it's at the end of May. So,
So
Whatever
the last
meeting
week
is
of May or
close.
first week of June?
yeah,
depending
last
on when
week
the
of
meeting
May,
is.
first week of June,
Perfect.
whenever you have a meeting in there.
Sounds good.
We'll review the schedule.
Yeah, I can look it up right now if you want.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to make something that's evergreen, not just.
Oh,
for
I
this
agree.
fiscal year.
No, that's fine, okay. Evergreen, love it.
Because it's been,
So last week or first week, and then will always be true, because it's gonna be one of those.
Last year was unusual.
well, I know in the past it's.
That hasn't happened recently.
All right.
Great,
I have one other item.
okay.
Article 7, it states $10,355 was used toward expenses to replace Beaverbrook Culvert on Tuttle Road, Chesley Brooks Culvert on Packles Falls Road, and for, and this should be struck from the list, wetland delineation on James Farm Road. That $10,355 is the amount that was requested. But the trustees of trust funds, when we reviewed the purposes for each of those items, we determined that the wetland delineation on James Farm Road was not a road and bridge improvement plan expense because it was not expected to lead to any modifications to the road. No changes to the road, no changes to the culvert, no new culverts. It was entirely a legal matter having to do with water runoff rights. So I have, if the town administrator wants it, I have a copy of the letter that the trustees of trust funds wrote, and also a copy of our spreadsheet where we list, and it shows that that one item was not paid for, so that number should be $5,960 instead of $10,355. And that last item wetland delineation should be crossed out.
I'll strike that. Change that over.
I do have two other items on other articles, but maybe you want to continue until we get to those. We have something on Article 10 and also on Article 14.
I'd say go ahead.
Why don't you go ahead and do
So
that?
Article 10, which is the $20,000 to the Fire Ponds and Cisterns Capital Reserve Fund. In the second paragraph, in the supplementary information there, it says, second sentence, if passed, this fund could be used for the installation of these new fire ponds and cisterns. Well, the fund as it is right now can be used for the installation of new fire ponds and cisterns. That has nothing to do with whether or not this additional $20,000 is added to it. Right now, a new cistern is expected to cost about $100,000. The fund right now has $174,000 in it. Because of the need for Article 12 to get the select board as the agent to expend, in order to spend it, the voters, the legislative body would have to vote for it. But I don't think I think that sentence is a little misleading.
What should it say?
Okay,
Just strike it.
I would just strike it. I don't think it's needed. Whether or not this passes, you can still install new fire ponds and cisterns.
Thank you. You had another one?
Yes. Article 14. And it says in the explanation, this warrant article transfers the responsibility for the town capital improvement program to the select board from the planning board. Well, in fact, the select board would not have the responsibility for the town capital improvement program. The select board would be appointing a committee,
Correct.
which would then have the responsibility. So I think it would be better if it read, this warrant article transfers the responsibility for the town capital improvement program from the planning board to a committee appointed by the select board.
I would just add that if the select board does not choose to appoint a committee, you don't have to.
Okay.
You can do this yourself, and that's why I left it as simple as it was. You have the option to appoint a committee, but you don't have to if you decide you would be better suited to do that.
You would have the responsibility. right?
Oh, I
Okay.
like that.
So
No,
it
but
would
you
be
can certainly
so-
change it to avoid the, I think it's very unlikely the select board is going to appoint themselves.
I worry, yeah.
Oh,
Well, then, if that's the case, then the wording,
yeah, it doesn't make sense then, because it says at least one member of the planning board and whatever.
Right.
So I kind of agree with what John's saying in terms of changing the language, because I have no desire to sit on that particular committee.
Yeah, and I would want to make sure we don't have the select board to go to CIP, so like, is there a way
Well,
that this wording
you're supposed to have
helps
one
us?
member of the select board.
That's fine,
or
but
something like
to not
that.
have it be the only. Yeah.
Very good, I will change that.
All right,
Thank you.
not leaving that open.
that
Thank
was
you.
all I noted.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, John. You're still up, I think.
Yep. Moving on to the Zoom policy. Per the discussion a couple of weeks ago about the Zoom policy, I added considerably more information to the policy. I basically took the New Hampshire Municipal Association's guidance and made it an addendum to the policy. I think that's fine for now and gives very good information. I will certainly have to stay on top of that as things change and come back to you, because that may well be altered by the legislature.
Okay.
But that is there. If that is okay with the board, I can bring that back in formal format for your signatures.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Next up is non-municipal use of town facilities policy, and this was triggered by a request from the New Hampshire dog walkers to use Little River Park for a possible Easter egg hunt. I have not heard back from the representative in the last week or two.
Well, they're just waiting.
They're essentially waiting to see if the board is interested in allowing them to move forward. At this point, we don't have a commercial use policy for town facilities. I have found a range of them, ranging from simpler than our field usage policy to 11 or 12 pages. And I'm not sure what the will of the board is. Do we want a number of municipalities also just don't allow commercial use of their facilities?
Last year, I think it was skirted
Yeah,
around
they-
by having it be a volunteer, like a fundraiser, and it wasn't allowed to be
Yeah,
used for.
they did it
commercial
last year,
uses.
so.
Yep, I was aware that if the board is okay with them proceeding, I'm happy to call her back and,
But do you
I
want it
think
to
we
be in a
should.
commercial way or in a, still continuing to be a fundraising?
I would like it to do like we did last year.
okay,
So that's not commercial, then that's fundraising.
there's a fundraising. And I am going to work on drafting a commercial use policy if the board so desires. If the board has no interest in commercial use of town facilities, so I'm happy to put it in
And
bed,
once,
but.
you mean like something where somebody could pay a rental fee and get to use the space
Right,
kind of thing?
exactly.
I think we should be covered. I mean, people could come up and request, we should have a position on it. I mean, do we want to have, I don't even,
Right, if there's a policy, then they know.
I'm not sure I understand the definition of commercial use. What's that mean? They're gonna sell something across the bench or?
Or use a facility and then they get the money from using that facility, so
I mean,
then
but it could be a charitable.
that's a different thing. with the
Well,
charitable.
but they would, if you have a group that can use it for charitable use, but not for, even though it's the same group, I mean, why shouldn't we let them utilize the room, if you would? Depending on when they come in and ask, say, here's what we're gonna sell. I mean, we're not
For
talking
instance,
ammunition.
there's a lady that's been asking for years to do like yoga or Zumba classes in town
Mhm.
facilities, and she
Yeah.
charges. And we've
Well-
always said no because,
But they do it at the park.
yeah, but they don't charge anything.
They have just a membership fee once a
They
year.
have a whole group of Tai Chi people out there.
But they don't
and
charge.
things, et cetera, et cetera.
Right, they
And
don't
I think that will be coming before the board in the very near future as a question from Parks and Rec as to what they're able to do. And I know I had talked with Karen Rossi a little bit of, probably talked to you as well, Katrin, and I had referred Karen to Nottingham's program and Deerfield's program, which use a lot of contractors like that for Parks and Rec programs.
It opens up the doors because then you have the option of offering services that you couldn't offer if it was only donation. And so you're limiting the amount of activities available to the residents by not allowing someone to get paid for their services.
Not allow someone to what?
To get paid for their services. So if somebody wanted to offer a class that the residents could use and they could pay some fee for that class, then that person could offer that. But if we don't allow anyone to charge a fee, and we also don't have a rec director to organize anything, and then there's just no way we can get classes offered to people in town.
Well, the issue I have is providing public facilities to somebody who's making money.
Right,
If we're charging them for the use of those particular facilities, that's something different.
right, because then that comes back to the.
But if you're
people.
saying you want to allow people to use our facilities and they get to charge and then we don't charge them,
Right.
no.
No, I'm
No,
not saying.
that's why it would have to be a policy.
My experience with the Parks and Rec programs that you've mentioned, take yoga, for example, there are several surrounding towns that offer yoga. There is a fee paid to the Parks and Rec department
Right.
that goes through town finance and goes into the revolving fund. That fee is proportionally split with the instructor, but the town cuts a check back to the instructor on a monthly basis.
And now so you can offer something, where otherwise you wouldn't be able to offer.
I think we should have a fee structure. I mean, we have to go in there in some cases behind them to straighten this up, do this.
Well, then you need this policy that he's talking about.
Right, and, okay, I'm in discussion with members of the Parks and Rec Commission about this, so I'll move forward with them. And as far as the dog walking event, the board is okay with that if it is held as it was last year.
Yes.
Do we have any complaints or anything we should be aware of?
Not that I could find.
No,
Okay.
as far as I know, no.
As long as it went well and things were.
I will let her know.
Great.
Under miscellaneous, I had a few things. I did talk with Annie Gasowski regarding meeting with the library trustees. Annie has talked with other trustees, and they would prefer to have a separate work session or meeting away from a regular select board meeting, just so the focus could be on the library.
Great.
They would also like a list of questions or items the board would like to discuss in
Perfect.
advance, so they can be prepared.
Sounds
So
fair.
I said I would bring that to the board. If that's an agreement, I can start looking for a date that's agreeable to both you folks and the library trustees.
Yeah. And when should we prepare that list of questions?
I would say as soon
Possible.
as possible. And if you can give me an idea of what you might like to know, or send me your specific questions, I can compile those.
Okay. Do you have those already thought about now?
Well, two jump to mind that we've already discussed. One, what are their plans specifically?
Mm-hmm.
And two, how are they gonna pay for it?
Okay.
And the other part that we've already talked about is throwing out the idea that possibility is that there's other options that we can explore with them. Because I think there's a benefit for the trustees and the Board of Selectmen, select boards, excuse me.
Select board, there you go.
I'm having a bad day. To be on the same page with whatever it is that's going forward. So there's, I don't want to say solidarity, but there's a common interest, a common way to move forward, so.
And that is how I presented the meeting to
Yeah.
Annie when I spoke with her.
Great.
Okay, so we'll move forward on that. I also have Standard Power, and this actually came up last month, but I don't have anything solid to offer the community at this point regarding Standard Power. But one of the things that Ryan did propose was that we can do this without changing any of our accounts, but if we switch our Eversource billing to Standard Power's hydro program that they run in conjunction with Eversource, they will pay us 5 cents per kilowatt of power used back by billing through them, essentially batch billing through them. It's not huge, but it would, on average, be $12 to $15 a month that we would basically get off our Eversource electricity bill.
Yeah.
So that's different than the program that you sent me?
It's sort of the prelude to the program that I sent you. This is the
Maybe we
first
try it
step
out.
of what they're able to offer.
I say yes.
As long as it doesn't take lots of your time.
No, I just have to notify them that we're going to change the billing.
All right.
And that way we will have had dipped our toe in the water and you know, gotten to see, for us personally, what it's like to switch over, so that if we're talking about residents having an option.
Yeah, it's fairly seamless. They don't change much. It's basically batch billing with an emphasis on hydropower
Great.
through Eversource.
So that's just Eversource, not?
Just Eversource. They don't work
Can't
with
do
the
it.
co-op.
Right.
I mentioned to the board earlier, middle school furniture will be going to the middle school Wednesday, that being tomorrow, a little after 3 p.m. to get furnishings, primarily for the library and a few items for the town office as well. Steve Bullock wanted me to discuss with the board the double doors that are behind me. Part of the security plan for the bunk rooms and the converted gym is to remove these 2 doors and wall this in permanently. And Steve wanted me to make the board aware of that and make sure that the board was okay with that. Fairly significant change, and he did not want to surprise you by having you show up and find a bunch of sheetrock where the door had been.
Right.
Does that
I
change
have
anything?
a concern
Yeah.
relative to the egress. If we have a fire in that hallway, et cetera, and these double doors are sealed shut, however, the wall, whatever. I'm just concerned if the chiefs looked hard at that, about the egress.
Don't we have there's a
There's a door over there.
Yeah, I don't even know why do you have that door at all? I don't know.
I understand there's a door there. The question is, where's the fire? And what the effect is, you know. I mean, those doors, I'm assuming, were put here for a reason to begin with, if nobody uses it.
Right.
That was gonna be my question as well.
Yeah.
Can we check with make sure the fire chief says, if we remove that, our egress is still okay with it?
Is it just a width thing, like they wanted to have something, because anything to get up here?
That might be true too. That door's small, that door's small.
Yeah.
I will certainly check with the fire
Is
chief,
there a
and I'll
way for
also
down there
check
here that's
with
fine?
regard to width. for moving furniture, that type of thing into this room.
And I don't know why that would.
Maybe
On that
not.
table, didn't
It comes apart.
I really don't see why we need to have double doors.
Um,
Have we been able to get figured out a plan for currently while we're working on it for locks? For
The only thing that I'm aware of that has changed at this point is I believe there is a bolt lock on the inside of the room that the women police officers
I was
use.
already there, and that makes it so that the other woman can't get into the bathroom. So that's challenging. So I'm hoping we can do something that.
I will, I can certainly discuss this. I did discuss it last week with Mr. Bullock,
Great.
and we'll continue those discussions about what we can do with regard to the security door. They were actively working today on the bunk rooms in the weight room.
Great.
Unfortunately, one of the things they discovered was that there were junction boxes in the ceiling that were missing their covers, but
Oh, okay.
Steve has corrected that.
Ay.
Any further questions regarding that? Okay. The next thing I wanted to make the board aware of is Joanne Clancy is going to be out beginning February 23rd,
Okay.
and will probably be out for the better part of March. She is anticipating being able to work from home fairly quickly after her medical procedure. This was originally planned, delayed, and she's back on the schedule. We do have her set up with laptop and VPN. Steve Gagnon is actually tomorrow morning making sure that is good to go. And I will probably be doing some paperwork shuttle as well, early morning and evening as the need arises to get things done. But
Do we have any security risks or anything that we need to be aware of, or?
not that I'm aware of, no. And Denise, Joanne, Liz, and myself have all met and discussed the protocol, important dates, how we're going to handle things, and I think we've got a good handle on it.
Great, thank you.
And one last thing, you may recall Scott Nemeth came before you with regard to a grant for a monitor defibrillator. It was a $40,000 piece of equipment that he was applying for a grant for. You had authorized him to apply for the grant. Total cost is a click over $42,000 for the piece of machinery. The state is going to reimburse 90% of that.
Wow.
But in talking with Joanne and Scott, the cleanest way to move forward and meet the state's requirements, which is the executive council sign off on this, which they're ready to do, have our paperwork. Joanne feels the cleanest way to pay for this would be to use the special duty fund, which will be reimbursed fairly quickly. I did talk with the police chief, and he's okay with that. But it seemed for that kind of money that we should certainly be running this by the Board of Selectmen,
Yep, thank
Select
you.
Board before we did anything.
So she's trying to keep it out of the operating budget? Is that what she's trying to do?
Essentially, she's got the money there. There's a fairly large pool of money still in the special operating fund. I believe there's around $69,000.
It makes sense.
But why is she not running it out of the operating fund? That's my question.
I didn't ask her that specifically, but I can certainly go back and ask her that, why it isn't coming out of the operating budget.
Why not use the special fund since it's
Why
something
not
special,
do,
different?
why do the special duty?
Because it's a unique purchase, it's not an operating.
When we buy other things, it comes out of the operating and get reimbursed. I'm
Right.
sorry.
Because it's grant,
Right.
it's gonna come back and be,
So then it goes back into that, and it keeps cycling, where if you do the operating, then it's hard to reimburse and all that,
We
right?
would have to go back into the general fund
Yeah.
if we take it
I
out of
think
the
it makes more
operating
sense to use the special
All right.
items fund.
I can certainly discuss it with her.
All right.
Can we agree so she can go forward, and then if there's a reason, we need to know
Okay,
that?
I just wanted to know why.
Yeah,
I did not question her as to her recommendation.
Tell her I want to know.
Okay?
So I'm okay with it, but I want to know why.
but otherwise,
I'm
we
happy to
agree.
do that.
Yeah, she should do that.
So we would be on the hook for, what, $200?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But we have that 42,000.
So is that coming out of the special duty fund? Where is that ultimately going to be expended out of?
I believe that that was ultimately going to come out of the special duty fund, yes.
Ultimately, it's.
And that fits the criteria for the expenses that come out of that particular fund?
As far as Joanne was concerned, it did.
Okay. All right.
And essentially, this is the monitor that reports directly. It can be swapped off with McGregor. It works with their system. It actually interfaces directly with the ER when they're taking someone there and
Okay.
sends your vital statistics. And,
Okay.
is a
That we are
cardiac
not having
monitor.
that transfer that's been challenging, that we don't have the ability to do.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
And that was all I had for town administrator topics. Got specific topics you would like me to address other than what I mentioned, I'm happy to do so.
Okay, we'll move on. Motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
Can I ask a question? 6F.
I'm sorry?
6F.
You have a consent agenda?
I can't, if you
6F.
speak into the
Six
microphone.
6F.
6F.
So what is that?
What is it?
CC Winter,
The Conservation Commission Winter Tree ID, what is that?
There
I don't remember seeing anything in there about
It
that.
was in the agenda packet. I know it was in the first time.
It's a
in
page
here.
in there. No.
It's an outdoor workshop being held at Little River Park. The Conservation Commission is co-sponsoring it with UNH Cooperative Extension, Rebecca DiGirolamo,
Oh, that one, okay.
That one,
Never
yeah.
mind, never mind, never mind, never mind, never mind. I know what it
and
is.
it's
Okay. Never mind.
a walk in the woods to
Yep,
identify
I know what
how to
that is.
identify trees.
Okay,
You all
I
set
didn't
now?
know. Yep, I'm all set.
All right, thank you.
I was all set before, but I didn't remember you guys calling it that, but okay. Thank you.
Yep.
I'm good. Sorry.
good.
Okay. I also have additional,
Roll call, yeah.
oh, sorry.
Commissioner
All in
Casper, yes?
favor?
All in
But
favor?
we yes.
All right, let me get this straight. Motion to accept the consent agenda
I
as
second.
presented. Can I get a second?
I did that. Yep.
Roll call vote, Selectman Bugby?
Yes.
Selectperson Casper?
Yes.
Selectman Brown?
Yes.
Vote for me.
We'll move on.
Yes.
Motion to enter into non-public session per New Hampshire RSA 91-A:3.
Hand these down for signatures first, please. That's the consent agenda, and I also have some transfers as requested. These are budgetary transfers as requested by Joanne Clancy that need your signatures as well.
Okay. Here, I'll start. Grab. This just means the chairman.
This is,
This.
yep.
She do that? Do you want to give me the bottom one? and I'll
Sure,
do
go
that?
ahead.
All right.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Is that all just chairman?
No.
We're on there.
Watch out where it says print versus,
It's already been printed.
oh,
Is it blue or dark?
I don't like that one.
Dark color. Here, I can give you these to start.
So your husband get you a better computer
That's the
after I
stair.
chastised him?
No.
No. Gosh. Well,
Got me a box of chocolates for Valentine's Day then.
I don't think that counts.
That took like 15 years, but he totally figured me out
Just
eventually.
ran out of ink. You have a pen?
I do.
Thanks.
Okay.
I'm just putting it on
Could you
the
leave
plate.
my paperwork?
I'm just moving us along. I'm not getting them out of order.
No, they're not out of
All
order.
right.
If they're out of order, Denise will yell at me anyway, so be very careful about that.
What is he mumbling about?
You know what? Sometimes it's best just not to ask.
Just not that much, right?
I like the like deep bass in the background.
Somebody's doing some exercising in there.
It's awesome.
Come off going in the fire department.
Keep been helping get enough blood pressure, insulin, whatever, for everyone.
Go ahead.
I'm just talking about the music. Beautiful. To be able to see what I'm talking. Getting old is rough, but it beats the alternative.
Which is,
Dying.
oh, that's really,
I mean,
really dark.
Getting, well, I mean, my husband says to me all the time, though, getting old is, oops, it's hard, but it's an alternative. I agree.
What?
To pay money?
For what?
I didn't see that one when I was trying through the email.
Oh, this is the, yeah.
Yay. Just shocked. Kev lightens it up, doesn't it? Can you hear it solid? Beautiful. He's just slowing us down, that's all. I'm just kidding, they couldn't find it until last. So tonight is the school board, meet the candidates night, which is why we are so unattended.
Tonight, you said?
Yeah.
March 3rd is going to be, I believe it's March 3rd is going to be a virtual meet the town candidates night.
Wonderful. Sponsored by the library?
Sponsored by the library trustees, and I believe Annie has contacted most of the candidates.
Great.
And she said she's going to take a stab at contacting some of the ones she didn't hear back from, so.
Perfect. That's an excellent opportunity to get to know people. And know people.
She's already contacted everybody?
She said she had this morning. I will let her know.
Everybody that is anybody, I think is what he meant.
I think that's probably it. That's probably it.
Denise enjoyed that.
Gonna leave that alone?
Breakfast day. She really enjoyed that more than I could imagine.
She'll get hers later.
It is, but you can keep it if you need it for the
No, that's
city.
all right.
Came from the municipal trust, so.
Nice. All right.
Where are we? We're through that. Ready to go into non-public?
Yeah, I'll second.
Motion to enter a non-public session? Yes, we went through that, didn't we?
I will second the motion.
Okay, you seconded the motion. Roll call vote. Selectman Bugby?
Yes.
Select person Casper?
Yes.
Selectman Brown, yes.
Do you want the town administrator in non-public session with you?
Yes.
You have to tell us what we're there for,
Okay.
at least for the other things. I know one thing already, but.
All right. All right, make a motion to seal the minutes.
Second?
On, sure. So Mr. Bugby?
You're running the meeting.
Roll call vote.
Yes, yes, I'm in favor of sealing.
Katrin Casper, yes. Mr. Brown?
Yes.
And I make a motion to give a merit increase to the Public Works Director in the number of 88, to the number of 88,000, beginning on February 21st,
Second,
February 20th.
first,
pay period beginning February 21st.
2022.
It's Monday, isn't
Isn't
it?
it?
Unless I'm the day off.
I know, let's look at the calendar.
It is next Monday.
Oh, it is the 21st. So, roll call vote, Mr. Rugby,
Yes.
Mr. Casper, yes.
Yes.
Mr. Brown, great, motion passes.
Good.
Number 9,
Motion passes.
Yeah.
number 9,
Number 9, what's number 9?
miscellaneous unfinished business.
Number 9, miscellaneous unfinished business.
I have a question to ask the town administrator.
Yes.
I've been seeing around town trucks with Ophidium fiber on them. What is happening, do you know?
I believe that I believe it's Atlantic Broadband that is in the process of stringing new lines, fiber lines, in preparation for their coming into the town as competition against Comcast. Comcast Xfinity.
Because right now Comcast is the only one that we've kind of sanctioned, if you will. So-
Well, you've actually sanctioned Atlantic Broadband as well, which is, and that was probably back in November.
Okay.
You signed paperwork authorizing them as well to come in as competition. They have, I believe, since changed their name to Breeze Line. So if you see weird trucks or
So it's
weird,
not the Ophidium fiber people that
They have
you
people
hear?
working for them.
I believe those are
Oh.
contractors that are
Oh,
working
okay.
for them, running those cables.
Okay, because you hear on the radio, Ophidium fiber is how the internet's
Yeah.
supposed to be or something, so.
Yep.
And there's
So-
been some confusion about how they're doing it, and just so people know that have underground, I know we have underground cables, and they literally like manually pull them through the underground
Oh.
cables. It's like a bunch of men pulling really hard, so even if you don't have a cable above ground, you will still get connected.
I want to make a motion to seal the non-public session minutes.
We
Oh.
already did that.
We did
We
that.
already did that?
We did that.
I don't remember that.
That's okay.
You voted in favor of
Yes.
it.
What are you two having a conversation over there?
No,
No, you
no,
voted yes.
You voted for
Yes.
it. You voted for it.
I can contact Brendan, who is our legal connection for the Atlantic Broadband Breeze Line agreement, and find out how things have progressed. Typically, he gives me an update about every 45, 60 days.
Oh, great.
Yeah, even if you can find out when they think they're gonna come to us,
Mhm.
because competition is a good thing.
Yes.
I'm tired every time I open my Comcast bill that it's always more.
Yeah.
Jesus. That's good. And we have some good news on, what's it called? The Gas and Go, Mick and Herb's old
What?
place?
Oh,
Quick stop.
Really?
We,
Oh, you guys don't know that?
I thought it was under agreement, it's not actually,
Yeah, see, you know.
yeah, but it's not like, there's not like artificial news.
Well, it's
What are you talking about?
progress.
something's happening.
Sounds like that's another one of these underwater meetings.
Hey, they know about it.
What?
No, it's the Mick and Herb's building is under agreement. One next to.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Potential car
So
wash.
hopefully we can get rid of it because it's an eyesore. It's like, geez.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
But it's gonna be a car
I
wash?
saw it for 25 years.
Which is like the thing I think every one of us can agree we need, because right now you have to drive 20 minutes from the closest car wash that's decent. So your car is dirty by the time you get home. So I'm excited.
Well, I'm just excited that that building would potentially be
Oh.
gone and that something else will be there, so.
Me too. It'd be
Because it's
wonderful.
not very good.
It'd be wonderful.
That'll be good. Oh, and also, anything update, what about the water line? Do we have any more information about?
I have
what's
not
happening?
received an update for well over a month now from the water line.
Can you find out what's happening?
It might be that it's really, really cold and there's.
Yeah, Julie gets to be the, like, liaison to them, so if you can touch base with them, maybe call to Todd Selleck and just say, hey, what's happening?
Yeah, the folks in Durham have, anytime they've had any more information, they have
Called and let you know.
contacted me, but I can certainly get a hold of them and find out
Yeah, see
how
if they
close
have
they are
it.
to completion. I think the last thing that I had seen was the proposed rate, and I had spent some time with the woman that had sent the initial rate things about 9 months ago, just bringing me up to speed with what they were doing and why the rates were structured the way they were.
Okay.
If anything, if you can find out when they think they're gonna be completed, because I think that's what the thing that's driving this is people keep asking about what's happening behind the Irving, and I keep telling them, well, they're not gonna do anything to the water line.
They built,
Okay.
they built a
When's that?
sign.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
In
so,
Lovely
anticipation.
sign.
then they ask, well, when's the water line coming? And I said, I don't know, so that's why I'm asking.
We'll find out.
Yep, I can certainly find out.
So if people are
What the schedule
asking,
is.
it'd be nice, and also it'd be nice if you find out anything concrete, just to stick something in the e-crier, so that people know what's happening. That would be great. Thank you.
What do you think?
It's up-
Meeting
It's
adjourned.
up to you. Yes.